What's up, everybody? My name's Big Cam and welcome back to another James Bond 007 movie review, and we are now into the next era of James Bond with Timothy Dalton playing James Bond, as we have gotten through the 60s and the 70s with Sean Connery, and through the remaining of the 70s and into the 80s with Roger Moore, and now for two brief films we have Timothy Dalton in his first appearance in 1987's The Living Daylights. And I actually quite liked Timothy Dalton's Bond. I wasn't expecting to, like going into it I was like, you know what, I just got around to liking Roger Moore and enjoying his films, and now I'm on to a next Bond. But I will say I am very excited to get to Pierce Brosnan's Bond. I probably haven't seen those films since I was a kid. And I might not have seen all of them. I might have only seen like the one with Halle Berry is the only one that really comes to mind. And I'm not even sure if that's like one of the good ones. You know what I mean? Like, I heard I played the GoldenEye video game, but I don't know if I've ever actually seen GoldenEye. I might click that movie and then like it will start to jog my memory type of thing. But to this point, anything before Pierce Brosnan I had definitely never seen. So watching 1987's The Living Daylights for the first times, the whole time I'm like, I wonder why it's called The Living Daylights. And very quickly at the beginning of the movie, he scares the living daylights out of this poor blonde. And, she's a cellist. And, like the story in this I actually quite liked a lot, actually. And the Bond woman was Maryam D'Abo. D''A''B''O. Dabo? Okay. Either way, she was gorgeous, and she has been in some things. Nothing necessarily that I recognize. Helen of Troy, maybe. In 2009, she was in Dorian Gray. Interesting. But yeah, Timothy Dalton, on the other hand, I believe he's still alive. He's one of the few Bonds that are still alive, and I think it's down to him, Pierce Brosnan, and Daniel Craig. And Timothy Dalton, it says he's been in a bunch of things. He's been in Toy Story. He was in Toy Story 3, Toy Story 4. What the hell was Timothy Dalton voicing? Timothy Dalton played Mr. Pickle Pants. Okay. Alright. He goes from being Bond to Mr. Pickle Pants. Alright, okay, I guess, whatever. He's been in some other things though, like the Rocketeer in 91, Hot Fuzz, The Tourist in 2010 with Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie. I actually quite liked that film. I thought it was kind of hot. But that was like prime 2010. That was like prime Johnny Depp and prime Angelina Jolie. Let's be real. Come on. But this film, I quite liked. It also had John Rhys-Davies in there as Pushkin. And John Rhys-Davies, if you guys don't know, he's Gimli from The Lord of the Rings. He was in Indiana Jones. He was in Aquaman. He was in Aquaman? Interesting. But I believe he was also the voice of like Jumba from Stitch. I might be wrong though. It does say he's done 200 films, so that's insanity. Now some of those are the making ofs and stuff like that, documentaries, but still 200 films? Good for you, John Rhys-Davies. Friggin' legend, and oh, what a voice that guy has. But, he's Pushkin, and there's like this whole plot in this movie where it's like this guy's double-crossing this guy, and this guy's trying to play them against each other, but really he's the bad, right? Like, it gets a little heady, but if you're paying attention, this movie actually, unfolds quite well. Where I think some of the other Bond films in the past, maybe I wasn't paying as close attention as I was for this one. And maybe it was just the fact that, like, in all honesty, I'll be brutally honest with y'all, I was trying to watch this for the last 2 days, and the reason why this video is coming out late on Friday is because I got dug in like a tick to God of War in the first 2018 God of War game, and I was fucking fighting this Valkyrie, and I couldn't beat her, so I just kept playing and playing and playing until I finally beat her. It took 2 days, and yeah, by the time I beat her, I looked down at the clock, and when a game is like just that good, and all of a sudden you look down at your phone and you're like, oh, it's 1 in the morning. I should go to bed. That happened Thursday night, so then I was like, alright, or Wednesday night. What's today? Friday? So that happened 2 nights ago. And then last night, the same thing. I finally beat the Valkyrie, and I was like, you know, cheering. I'm like, finally, this freaking bitch. I had to beat her. I was so determined to beat this thing. Finally beat it, looked down at my phone. It was 2:30 in the morning. I was like, oh my God. I still need to watch the James Bond film for tomorrow night. And so I put it on. And luckily I had started it the night before, so I had like gotten through like the intro and like a couple, you know, minutes of it. But I was up until like almost 4 in the morning last night watching this film, and so that maybe when my eyes look extra baggy or I might look tired. But in all actuality, watching it that late at night, for some reason I just couldn't get to sleep. But either way, I was like locked in, and I was like really watching the film and taking it all in. And I'm also, if you guys know from the channel, I'm a sucker for a love story. So this Bond not being a complete ladies' man, although he still kind of is, you know, at the very beginning of the movie, he skydives onto a lady's boat, and she's on the phone with her friend, and she's like, I just need a real man. When will I find him? And then Bond drops in onto her boat, and she's like, would you stay? And he's like, maybe gonna need 2 hours, you know, but like we don't see him being this, you know, super altruistic ladies' man throughout the whole film until he ends up, you know, seeing the cellist that he had to narrowly not kill and shoot her gun out of her hand, scaring the living daylights out of her. And that was played by Maryam in her character name of Kara. And Kara and Bond together in this film, you know, they were really cute. There's this sledding sequence. Oh, the Bond cars. At the very beginning of the movie, he's got this convertible Aston Martin black convertible that looked so sexy. And I was like, I need that car ASAP in my life. In a video game, I don't care. I need to hear what it sounds like. I need to control it, pretend I'm Bond, you know what I mean? But then he had another Aston Martin that got painted gray and like the more, you know, Bond color scheme, and then, you know, that had gadgets and lasers and sleds and all types of stuff to be able to, you know, gadget up the Bond film, which was like the campiest part of this movie, was that chase sequence. But it was also entertaining. It's fun, you know, it gets you out of your head a little bit, and you're like, oh yeah, this is a movie. Some stuff that doesn't necessarily happen in real life can happen, you know, like, and it's James fucking Bond. It doesn't need to be, you know, 100% realistic. At times, I like the campiness of Bond. Now, in the newest Bond, whenever that comes out from director Denis Villeneuve, I have a feeling that that Bond will be much more of like Christopher Nolan's Batman, where like, yes, it's super, you know, natural and in like superficial world that you're living in, but it's also super realistic and plausible how these things are happening. So, you know, as much as I don't like that they're getting away from the campiness, I think they need to, for things like Austin Powers, to not be able to make fun of them so easily, you know what I mean? But also, like, Austin Powers, where's Mike Myers in Austin Powers 4? Like, we need that yesterday. But so, like, you know, he's in a Bond car and he's got these sleds and they're going down this hill, crash into a snowbank, you know, go off a jump, the crazy stunts that they do for these films. And then, you know, that now they're sledding on her cello case. He's using the cello as like a ski. The cello takes a bullet, you know, she's like, this is an expensive cello, don't damage it, this is my baby, you know, like, it's called the Lady Rose or something, you know, like, and she plays the hell out of that cello, and she's gorgeous, and I don't know what it is about blondes and just beautiful blondes. It's like, just Barbie, protect her at all costs, you know, Cinderella, put her slipper on, you know, like, I don't know, but James Bond ending up with Kara and then, you know, staying with Kara. She doesn't die at some point, and then he goes on to the next girl. You know, there isn't another girl that kind of fights for his attention, you know, and there's like 2 other women at some point that he makes like little flirty comments to, like, you know, they're like, oh, you want a party? And then he gets in the car and he's like, drop me off, and they're actually there to bring him to their boss, which ends up being the CIA, Felix Leiter. And I knew that name because that's played by Jeffrey Wright in the Daniel Craig movies, which cracked me up because I loved Jeffrey Wright as an actor. But, you know, as soon as I heard the name, I was like, oh, okay, same Bond universe, I get it, I'm here for it. But also for the cast, Desmond Llewellyn, Q. Q is back. Robert Brown is back as M for the last couple films. He was M for Octopussy, The Spy Who Loved Me, A View to Kill, and now The Living Daylights, and also the next film, License to Kill, which is the 2 Timothy Dalton films. But yeah, I mean, director John Glenn, he's done a few Bond films in a row at this point, so he's getting his groove for this. And yeah, I really ended up liking it. You know, it's slightly over 2 hours, like 2 hours, 10 minutes, not a bad runtime. And the just to wrap it up here and tell you my score in a moment, but the Letterboxd synopsis reads, "The new James Bond, living on the edge, after a defecting Russian general reveals a plot to assassinate foreign spies. James Bond is assigned to a secret mission to dispatch the new head of the KGB to prevent an escalation of tensions between the Soviet Union and the West." Ooh, right? So, like, does USA have Bond movies that are like, you know, America versus the Soviet? I don't know. Do we have an American spy, or is it just James Bond? But, like, you know, there's part of these that I actually quite like, that he's, you know, he's the ministry, you know, he's London's guy, he's the UK's guy, and, you know, he's a Brit, and he's, you know, still fighting for the world, though, you know, diffusing bombs, and, you know, fighting the KGB and the Soviet Union in this, and, you know, they're working with the CIA over in America, you know, so, like, there's parts of this that are just absolutely just juicy Bond. Every Bond film has it, and it's just juicy, and I absolutely love these James Bond films. And as I was going through it, I was like, God, these movies are so good. Gorgeous women, a handsome guy who's capable with a gun, capable with his hands, you know, capable on his feet, you know, capable with his mouth as well. He can talk himself out of something if he needs to. You know, he's also a good shot, you know, like, this Bond, no matter who it is, I think Bond is a franchise and a character that should go on forever. There should never be a time that Bond isn't a thing. And going all the way back to the 60s now, we're talking 60 years of character that this character's been alive and well, and there's plenty of books and plenty of movies now that we've seen of him, like 20 plus movies. You know, this is a franchise that's competing with, like, Marvel for the amount of movies in a franchise. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. Like, I'm pretty sure that James Bond has more movies than the DCEU did. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy that, like, a comic book franchise has less movies than a spy thriller thing. You know, like, and it should keep going. And, you know, this captures late 80s so well. Like, even the intro song, The Living Daylights, it was very, like, clubby music, and, like, you know, you could just picture a bunch of people in the 80s just friggin' dancing and vibing in a club to it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just such a vibe, man. And then heading into the next one, we get, you know, the end of the 80s, and then we get into the 90s with Pierce Brosnan. But, like, each one of these Bond films is, like, capturing the vibe and the era that they were in. You know, the last ones felt like the 70s. Sean Connery felt like the 60s. He feels like the 80s. Pierce Brosnan will feel like the 90s and early 2000s. And then, like, Daniel Craig's Bond feels like the early 2000s, 2010s, all the way into the 2020s, and then now into the 2020s, heading into the 2030s, we're going to be getting a new Bond. And who will that be? Rumor has it Callum Turner, Jacob Elordi, possible other people. I don't know. No confirmations yet, but whoever Denis Villeneuve picks is going to be a tough decision nonetheless. And I hope the young man is up to the challenge, because we need Bond back, and we need him to be badass, you know, and I have complete faith in Denis Villeneuve. But overall, this film, I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars, about a 7 out of 10. If I had to give it a true 10 score, it's probably like a 7.4, you know, 7.5 maybe. Very good. Maybe not very good, but good. You know, I really liked it. And Timothy Dalton, I thought was great. And yeah, not too shabby, a little solid ending. He gets the girl, you know what I mean? You gotta love that, you know? And yeah, I think that's it for me, y'all. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below on anything we talked about today. The new Bond, who do you think that should be? Who is your favorite Bond actor? What's your favorite Bond film? I'd love to hear all those things down in the comment section below, or you can send them to me on my other social medias. Links for those down in the description below. But if you made it this far into the video and you don't want to chat more James Bond, what are you doing here? I would love to hear your thoughts about James Bond. And the best way to support the channel, if you'd like to, is clicking that share button, share this with a friend, or even just hit share, copy link. That goes a long way to helping the channel as well. And thank you guys so much. And if you really do want to support the channel, the best way to do that for any YouTube channel, but mine in this case, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, make sure you hit that bell so you don't miss future James Bond movie reviews. And the next Timothy Dalton James Bond movie review should be out next Friday with License to Kill. And I will see you gorgeous folks in the next video. Peace!